DGTV is Darren Gilbert Television. You are watching classic television with modern news and analysis. Stay tuned to DGTV. Up next, DGTV News and Commentary, starring Darren Gilbert. This episode: South Carolina Republican primary, sex scandal and income tax returns, Canadian Federal Liberal Party convention, Toronto City Hall passes responsible budget. DGTV News and Commentary is brought to you by Cole, Bullet Bourbon, and Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer, because good things happen in threes. And now, here is the host of DGTV News and Commentary, Darren Gilbert, reporting today from Wasaga Beach, Ontario, Canada. Here's Darren.
Thank you, and congratulations are in order to former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who last night successfully won the South Carolina primary by 12 astonishing points over former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, followed by former Senator Rick Santorum and Congressman Ron Paul, rounding out the four. As you know, DGTV has endorsed Michelle Bachmann, and when Congresswoman Bachmann dropped out of the race, we endorsed Mitt Romney. And Romney did end up winning New Hampshire and ended up with a virtual tie with Rick Santorum in Iowa after a recount. Though Santorum is technically ahead on votes, they will be awarded the same number of delegates. The reason for Newt Gingrich's win can be traced in part to two debates that were held this past week on Fox News and CNN, respectively, in which Gingrich performed very well. And there was an income tax issue about when Mitt Romney should or would release his past income tax returns, saying that it would happen probably sometime in April, as previous presidential contenders had released in the past, was not sufficient, and he did not satisfy people with his answers on his income taxes. And then old news broke out about Newt Gingrich's past marital infidelities. There was not a lot of new ground covered in the story by ABC News, and that allowed Newt Gingrich to swing back heavily at ABC News and CNN and the mainstream media in general in the second debate, when he attacked them for focusing in on that gossipy story as opposed to the issues of the day. And for the record, Mitt Romney and the other candidates agreed that we should stick to the issues of the day. Well, I've got good news for you. In 2 days, Mitt Romney is going to release his past income taxes and an estimate on this year's income taxes ahead of schedule. So after we can see that, we can go back to normal and deal with the current issues of the day as the world moves on after Mitt Romney releases his taxes. The all-important Mitt Romney income tax returns, which are going to change the world. And so it's on to Florida. And in Florida, Mitt Romney is substantially ahead of Newt Gingrich, Santorum, and Paul in the polls. And though this was a huge victory for Newt Gingrich in South Carolina, it does not mean there's going to be staying power. One of the big problems that I've had with Newt Gingrich, and I will support him if he is the ultimate nominee, is his lack of discipline, and not in his personal life. I'm talking about in politics. He is not a good manager, and in one of the debates, Rick Santorum reminded him that when he worked with Gingrich in the Congress in the mid-90s, Gingrich was out of control, 1,000 ideas a minute, and people that have worked with Gingrich in the past are adamant they don't want to work with him again. That means he lacks substantially in leadership skills. And we don't want someone lacking in leadership skills to win the nomination. Now, he may prove me wrong, and show he's got great leadership skills, and if he wins the nomination, so be it. But these are my concerns. Also, he's running as the most conservative candidate, arguably, is his preface. However, he once said the era of Reagan is over. He called Paul Ryan's plans in the Congress this past year right-wing social engineering. He was supporting global warming with Nancy Pelosi in the past. Hasn't been exactly conservative on a number of things. And Glenn Beck calls him a progressive big government Republican. So these are things Newt is going to have to deal with. And because he is such a masterful individual in these debates, he's able to articulate and parry well against these things. Former Texas Governor Rick Perry did get out of the race this past week and endorsed Newt Gingrich, and that probably helped him a little bit as well. Final word on these debates. I honestly thought Mitt Romney did well on them. I will concede Gingrich won the first debate. I thought Mitt Romney, if he didn't win the second debate, Rick Santorum won the second debate. But the simple fact that Newt was able to take a shot at the media in the first couple minutes of that debate caused Gingrich to steal the thunder, and it to then end up being reported that he was the de facto winner of that debate. So there's 2 more debates before Florida, and I predict Mitt Romney will recover well, especially with his taxes being released, and I think he'll probably win in Florida, is my prediction. John Huntsman also has dropped out of the race, as you know. He endorsed Mitt Romney. Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann has yet to endorse anyone. She's just letting the voters decide for themselves right now. The next item is on the Canadian Federal Liberal Party Convention, which was held last weekend. First, the only bit of good news from this convention was that they did not choose former Member of Parliament, dinosaur, attack dog, rat packer, Sheila Copps as the new president of the party. This is not the leader of the party, president of the party. Thankfully, the Liberals did not choose her. They chose another person, Mike Crawley. Now, I'm going to comment on something that was not discussed much at this convention, and it would have an alarming impact on future Canadian elections if the Liberals ever implemented it into law, and that is preferential balloting. And I want you to bear in mind, the New Democrat Party, which is the Socialist Party, wants proportional representation in elections. So remember those 2 things, because they are somewhat similar. Throughout all of Canadian history, like in the American system too, and the British system, it is first past the post. In each riding, or in the States, as you would say, in each district, whichever candidate wins the most votes is the winner. Under preferential balloting, you would rank your preferences of the candidates. And unfortunately, what this would result in Canada is practically outlawing the Conservative Party unless they won over 50% of the vote in each riding. Because you see, in Canada, there is really only one major right-of-center party, and that is the Conservative Party. Almost all of the other parties are on the left, i.e. the Liberal Party, the New Democratic Party, which is the Socialist Party, as I said, and the Green Party. Then we have a number of minor parties, mostly on the left, the Marxist-Leninist Party and the Communist Party. Just about the only other right-of-center party other than the Conservative Party, which is one of the minor parties, is the Libertarian Party, and I'm very pro-Libertarian. But and conservatives arguably could put them as their second choice. But essentially what you would have happen is Liberals would be voting and putting the NDP as their second choice, because they're all over there on the left, and maybe the Green as their third choice. And Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Member of Parliament and son of former Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau, joked that we could all rank the communists ahead of the conservatives with preferential balloting, as he laughed. Well, he showed his true colors there, didn't he? He'd rather have communist members in power than Conservative members. That tells you what today's modern Liberal Party is all about, and especially the arrogant entitlement politician Justin Trudeau. Now, for the Liberals to implement this, they would have to win an election, and theoretically, I don't think the Conservatives are going to be in power forever. The New Democrats want proportional representation, which would mean you would be dividing up all of the ridings based on the percentage of the vote. So if the Conservatives got 40% in a riding and the Liberals got 30% and the New Democrats 20% and the Greens 10%, that's how you would be dividing up the seats. So you could end up having a minority government in the future where perhaps the Liberals and the NDP join forces and coalesce and come up with some compromise on proportional representation and preferential balloting. With proportional representation, again, because there's only one right of center party, you would forever have a mix match of left-wing parties joining forces together to form a coalition, and Canada would permanently forever be left-wing. Under both systems, preferential balloting and proportional representation, the Conservatives would basically never be in power again. They would have seats there, but they would never be the decision makers. And because the Liberals and the NDP cannot win an election the fair way, they're trying to do it this way. And if they think that they can get elected and simply pass an act of parliament to change our history of voting from 1867 to present, from first past the post to preferential balloting or proportional representation, they have another thing coming, and it will be challenged in the courts, because you cannot change history with an act of parliament. First past the post has got to be respected, and if it's going to be changed, it's going to have to be changed in a constitutional manner, in my opinion. Item. Toronto City Council, under the leadership of Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, successfully passed a balanced budget this year, in which for the first time in Toronto history, Toronto will spend less money next year than they did this year. And in the previous year, there was no property tax increase. There is going to be a 2.5% property tax increase next year, unfortunately. That's not good, but considering the way the books are and the way Rob Ford and the right of center councillors have been doing in terms of looking for savings and efficiencies going forward, the taxpayers will accept that 2.5% increase. But what angered everyone is on budget day at the last minute, the mushy middle, as they like to call themselves, these are left-wing people who disguise themselves as people in the middle, a little bit conservative, a little bit left-wing. They're basically left-wing too. They were led by Josh Cole, and they proposed $19 million in additional spending on stupid things like keeping open non-busy swimming pools and not looking for those efficiencies in libraries and ice rinks that are not being used that much. So at the last minute, because of last year's budget surplus, the left-wingers, which outnumber the right-wingers on council, got together and said, let's spend $19 million. We can't help ourselves. Well, that is what happens with left-wing people. They like to spend other people's money. And that is it for this week. There is 2 debates before Florida, and I encourage you to watch them. And again, DGTV is endorsing Mitt Romney and predicting Romney will win in Florida on January 31st. So have yourselves a good week. Bye for now. I'm Darren Gilbert.
DGTV is Darren Gilbert Television. You are watching it. Classic television. Modern news and analysis. Stay tuned to DGTV.